Welcome, my lords, to the Well Earned Comforts podcast. I'm Sam.
And I'm Seth.
Thank you for joining us on the Walls of Isengard as we explore the many works of Tolkien and, of course, discuss life. We're glad to have you as part of this fellowship, as there's no telling where we'll be swept off to. And boy, has it been a minute or two, actually probably 2 months, actually, since Seth and I last got together and were able to podcast. Lots going on in both of our lives, especially Seth, as he's been, I'll just let him talk about it, but he's been going crazy with all things family, work, and very little fun, I guess I would put it that way, just from some of our side conversations over text. But yeah, we're excited to be back. We're going to be talking some dragons today, which I'm super excited about. This is just a topic that we both were like, hey, it'd be kind of fun, kind of easy to talk about, and let's dive into some of those worms of Tolkien's mind. So before we do that, we're going to babble like Butterbur for a little bit. I'll let Seth explain why it's been so long since we podcasted. What's going on, man? How's it going? Well, what's new?
Well, it really seems like you're blaming me for all this, and
well, blame is a funny word.
I think that's probably reasonable. I will give you that. I don't know. Life's just been absolutely crazy with starting up clinicals. I'm 1/3 done with my clinicals now. I finished up. But for the last, 12, 13 weeks, whenever the semester started, I've been doing my 3 full days at work, which is 12 and a half, 13-hour days in a row, and then 2 10.5 to 11-hour days at clinical every week, so without fail. So life has been on the back burner. I mean, it's been absolutely exhausting. Thankfully, I have a wonderful wife who has taken the brunt of basically being like a single parent in a lot of ways. I mean, I take every moment that I get to step in and play with the kids, and even on my days off, the 2 days off that I've had, I would still get up early, try to get all my schoolwork done in the morning before everybody wakes up, so that I can spend time with the kids and be present and give her as much of a break as possible. So life has been incredibly exhausting, quite frustrating at times, but we made it through one semester. I still am not done with the semester, but I'm done with the clinicals, which basically makes me feel like I'm done with the semester. So
absolutely. Yeah.
And then, been working full time. And actually the last shift I worked on Sunday, I don't think I told you this, Sam. But I had a really critical, individual who the doc that I was working with, and I quote, maybe I shouldn't quote, I'll paraphrase, for job reasons, but the physician basically said, leave this patient in this position and transfer out.
Oh gosh.
As opposed, because we were trying to fix the problem, and it just wasn't happening. And so he finally said, leave them in that current state, don't change anything, and get them to a bigger facility. And so it was a pretty hectic day at work. And then we finally get a bed accepted at this outlying tertiary facility, much bigger than our hospital. And EMS arrives with paramedics, and they're like, yeah, we can't manage this patient. Like, you're on 8 different drips, and we have the patient paralyzed. We're using a paralytic because of how critical they were. And they're like, we can't safely transport this. Like, we're not trained for that. So I actually got to ride in an ambulance. And that 12.5-hour day turned into like almost a 17-hour day, because I had to ride a little over 2 hours away while managing the patient. And then I got to ride back. But there was a positive to that, is the paramedics apparently are given a little stipend for food. If they have to do a transport over 2 hours away, the company pays for them to get food. So I'm sitting in the back of this ambulance, and we just pull over. I'm like, there's no way we're back yet. Like, that's way too quick. And it just pops his head around. He's like, you hungry? You want to get some food? And it was like 10:30 at night. And so stopped at like a 50s diner that kind of reminded me of like Gunther Tootie's. At like 10:30 at night, and had a nice pita with some fries. And so, I mean, it was exhausting. That was, at the end of a close to 60-hour week. And so that 60-hour week turned into a 65-hour week or whatever. And so I was beyond exhausted, but it was quite a cool experience. But I know I'm rambling here, but Amanda, I had called her like, hey, this might happen. I'm sorry. I might not be able to come home and say goodnight to the kids and everything. And she sent me a video of Evelyn, and Evelyn, she was like,
I saw the video.
Did you see that? Yeah.
I saw the video. Yeah.
And Evelyn was just like, yeah, daddy's a hero. And it's like,
wow.
There's something about that where it's like, I don't feel like a hero. I'm just doing my job. It's not that really isn't that big of a deal. Like any ICU nurse in my position would have done the same thing. In fact, one of them did a couple weeks prior. But to hear your little girl be like, it's okay that I don't get to say goodnight to you because you have a really sick person that you're taking care of. It's like, that feels nice. Wow. That's really cool. Yep. And then and I'll shut up after this, but it really just, it's a testament to the kind of mother that Amanda is as well. And I don't know, it brings me quite pride and joy in my family.
No, 100%. I mean, she could, very well be like, daddy's at work again. You know, he's just has to work a little bit longer. But no, she kind of like, it seems like she's explaining the situation in a way that a little one could understand. Like, dad's saving somebody's life right now. Like he's helping people, and to hear, just the voice, that was so cute. Like her little voice saying, "Daddy's hero." Yeah, of course he is. Like no big deal. Like that's what he does. He's a superhero. That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it felt pretty good. But yeah, that's me rambling for, I don't know, the last like 7 or 8 minutes. So you've had an eventful time. You got to go to LEP3, which is awesome. I was very jealous, and when that night was happening, I actually was kind of depressed. I was like, Amanda, I really wish I could have gone to this. Like, I'm so happy for Sam, but I'm a little upset that I'm not there. So hopefully down the road we'll try to make it a thing. But yeah, tell me about it. You have a little bit, but maybe give me like your favorite experience or something.
Sure. So it was really cool. Obviously, I talked about this a little bit like on my solo episode about my biggest gripes with Peter Jackson. If you haven't listened to that, you probably don't need to. It's just me rambling.
It's great. It's great. Honestly, it was good. I loved it.
Well, thanks. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We went up to Mount Vernon, Ohio, and there was a combination of events. So the little town of Mount Vernon put on for Hobbit Day this walk through Middle Earth. And so all the shops had different like Middle Earth themed either games or merchandise, or like the coffee shop had Middle Earth themed drinks you could get. I think we got like the Dwarven Halls iced mocha latte or something. I don't know, something like that. It was just kind of fun. But then obviously Ariel was fighting some sickness during the time, so that just kind of threw a wrench in things, but she trooped through because she knew how much I really wanted to do this, and she was wanting to do it too. So, knocked back some Dayquil and just, called it good. The kids were pretty wild, but it was the coolest part. And I think, they touched on it in the podcast. So this was all about, it was a party with the Up Talkin' Tolkien podcast. It's called the Long Expected Party, LEP. But the party itself was in this like kind of old, that wasn't like an old barn, but it was like a kind of an event space barn thing. Didn't really have any AC. Everybody's kind of sweating a little bit, but was really cool to see. I was really worried about bringing the kids. Like I thought they'd be kind of a hindrance, and they were to some extent, but
of course,
like,
kids,
Bear running around and Ellis being attached to one of us at all times, but I was surprised and I was blown away. And it was really, really neat that there were so many other kids there. Like everybody else who had kids brought their kids, except for Andrew, who I don't know if he started listening to here or not, but he ended up sleeping in his truck the night before, because we got in on Friday and we could do like this little dinner that they put on at this brewery. And so we had a beer, had some dinner, and then the party was going to be Saturday. So I guess he just slept in his truck Friday night, but he's got like 5 kids, and he's like, yeah, I should have brought them. I didn't think there were going to be kids. I was like, I didn't have a choice. So, so I brought them, but it was really neat just to see all the little hobbits, if you will, running around, and little crotch fruits, if you will,
as Lane likes to say.
Yes. Yeah. So it was really cool just kind of meeting as in Lane and Lane's family too. All the girls and Vigo. Bear hung out with Vigo for a little bit, just kind of like, as little kids do, which was neat. And then seeing little Lucas now, he's within days of Ellis as far as like, I think they're like 10 days apart. But Lucas is way bigger, which I thought Ellis was a pretty big kid. But it's pretty funny to see. But yeah, that was probably my favorite part, was just the fact that there's just all these families. I thought I was like the lone like nerd dad, but here we are with families, and it was a lot of fun. Did a little open trivia that, you know, if you were there, you and I would have swept the floor easy peasy.
Was it teamed up? Part, like, did you get to team up with somebody?
Nah, it was just open floor. You had to rush, like, first one to like run up to the microphone they had there, and give the answer. But
how'd you do?
There was
honestly?
only a couple there that stumped me. I got all the ones that I thought.
You got all the ones that you thought you would get, like, obviously.
No, I got all the ones I tried to get.
Okay.
There was one that I stumbled on the pronunciation of it, and they gave it to me anyway. But
which ones didn't you get? That's what I'm curious about.
So there was a question about what was the name of, I think it was, what's that guy's name? We did a whole thing. The Mariner, what's his name?
Aldarion,
the whole, 4 episodes we did on that guy. It was like one of the names of one of his ships, like his mightiest ship that he passed down to his son or something like that. And I was like, it's the second something, and I don't even remember it now. But
yeah, I wouldn't have got that, to be honest.
Yeah,
that's a tough.
So that was
one.
like the only one that I was like, I have no idea. But most of the other ones, like, I'll let some other people do it. But no, it was a good time. It was a really good time. But outside of that, not a whole lot of different things going on. Just kind of moving and grooving. Ellis is crawling now. He's trying to go up the stairs, so we got to put up the baby gate. Bear is talking up a storm, which is fun to hear. Just we were at this church. I have some high schoolers that wanted to practice they're going to be leading worship for us on Sunday night, and so they're practicing yesterday. And I let Bear come in early and just kind of hang out with us. And he's watching the guy on the drums, and he's, wailing away, and Bear's sitting there, and he literally looks at me and goes, "Bear play drum when Bear get bigger." And I was like yeah, exactly. I was like, how do you know that you're going to get bigger? Like, obviously that's what happens, but at what point do you conceptualize the fact that you are not going to stay this size? Like, I had no idea that he knew that already, but he, like, unprompted completely. Like, he was locked in watching this guy play drums.
Yeah, it's like that second level thinking where it's not I want, it's when I get older as well. So it's like that second level that he hit, and it just is like, really? Okay.
Yeah, it blew me away. Again, he's such a little kid now. He's not a baby anymore, which is just sad and great all at the same time. Like, I'm super proud of him, but I'm also, mourning a little bit of just losing that baby in him. But as Ariel and I talked about, I guess we're just gonna always have to have a baby, just to fill that void. So.
Okay, well, you're probably still a little too soon to be announcing anything. I don't know.
Well, yeah, definitely too soon.
Okay. I was gonna say, it's still a little early.
Ariel's still there saying it's not even possible right now.
But... Oh, it is. It is.
Well, okay, yeah, sure.
It 100% is. It's improbable, but it is 100% possible.
Yeah,
but that's awesome.
That's all.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys had a great time. And go ahead.
Oh, good. I was just gonna say the only other thing that I mentioned on my solo episode that I had started my running streak for doing a 5K a day for the month of October. I think I recorded on like October 2nd or something like that.
Okay.
So just so everybody knows, I did it. I finished 5K a day, month of October, got 100 miles in. And now I went back to lifting, but I've only done like 2 things since the start of the month. So we're going downhill fast, but at least I got that done. So if anyone was wondering, but probably nobody other than maybe Scott Marion, who is about to hit 2,000 days in 2 days. In 2 days, he'll hit 2,000 days straight running. It is wild, but he's also raising money for a really good cause too that he's putting towards. So, I mean, it's really cool. And he's not like, hey, look at me. I've done this thing for 2,000 days. He's like, hey, why don't you donate because I'm doing this thing, and raise awareness to the cause. And so, that's pretty neat. So shout out you, Scott. I wish I could run with you on, I guess that would be Saturday, but best of luck. Have fun, man.
Best of luck for sure. That's awesome. Just out of curiosity, how much easier or harder did it get?
I don't know if it definitely got easier probably week 2. I really hadn't done any training up until then. Like, I'd maybe done a 5K like maybe twice a month up to that point. Yeah. So first week I was real tight, like my calves were real tight and stuff. But then after the first couple of weeks, it was pretty easy for the most part. And I switched it up. I'd run with Ian, one of my friends, a couple times, and got to run with Ariel once. Ran with Bear, ran with Ellis, just kind of pushing strollers. And so I really changed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Only did one fast run in which I hit like a 7:45 pace for the whole thing.
That's solid.
Which it's decent. But of course I look at Steven's runs and he's running up mountains faster than me. So, but
just what he does, man.
Teach their own. Yeah.
That's good. It sounds like you guys had a great time with all of the LEP stuff, and
yes.
That's a pretty big accomplishment to be able to stick to something like that. I'm proud of you for doing that. So I'm glad it's going well.
Yeah, and shout out to all the people I met at LEP3. Like I mentioned, Andrew, got to hang out with Steve for a while, and he's the guy that actually made that comment on Spotify about the grinder. That episode when I had to explain that it's my coffee grinder, not my grinder account that you were, So it was nice putting a face to that. He's been apparently listening for a little while now, and so we got to talk about that for a little bit. Dr. Damon's orthopedic surgeon, who I'm so excited we'll have him onto the podcast here pretty soon, hopefully. I think you and him will really hit it off. He ended up getting... I'll save the story for him. He'll share it on the podcast. It'll be really cool. But or maybe I'll tell you off air. But he's a super cool dude. I mean, reminds me a lot of kind of like the Dr. White type brain, but just loves Tolkien and super knowledgeable, like knows everything.
You got to be a smart cookie to become an orthopedic surgeon. That's for sure. That is for sure. Yeah. Well, that's probably plenty of babbling. And the doc here says 5 minutes or so. It's probably been like 15, at least 20 minutes, maybe. Yeah, that's all right. It's been a while.
A couple of things you have here concerning hobbits, and then underscored barista. This sounds interesting. Tell me what this means.
No, I just so I got this hat, which is awesome, right? I would wear it like this, but you can't see it because of the glare. But for the audio listeners, it just says concerning hobbits, a radio drama. And Amanda and I have a coffee shop that we frequent probably about once a week. We walk there. It's like 1.5 miles away. So we just go for a stroll and take the kids. And the barista was like, "Oh, hobbits, I love Tolkien." And I was like, "Oh yeah, you should check this out. It's some of our friends that are doing this radio drama." And she was like, "Oh, awesome." And she like looked it up on Spotify on her phone right there. I was like, "Yeah, I'll give it a try." So not to pressure Lane and Ez, or primarily Lane and everybody else, but like we got to keep these episodes rolling.
They got to keep pumping out. Yeah.
They got to keep pumping them out. That first episode was really good, but I don't know. It's probably been close to 6-8 months, but I know they've all been busy and got a lot going on, obviously. So yeah, I just thought it was cool. I was happy to kind of share that with somebody in the real world, if you will.
Yeah. And I think the thing Lane mentioned in one of the recent podcasts was that they went from like 6 audio voices to 40 in the next 2 episodes. And so compiling all of that,
that's a lot of work.
Yeah, I love that he wanted to allow anyone and everyone who wanted to be a part of this, like us, to have a voice and to play a character. But I imagine that's a lot more work on him than just having somebody have a few different voices. And
that's a good point.
But so he's a man of the people for sure. But it's a lot of work, I'm sure, compiling all that and making sure it sounds good and putting in all the edits and stuff. So on top of having 4 kids and working full time and getting his master's, I think.
I think he recently completed that. So yeah, that's awesome.
Did he? Okay. Yeah.
I think so.
It's crazy. Well, other corners of Middle Earth, we have the Amazon show Rings of Prime has finished filming season 3 and supposedly will be more in the spirit of Tolkien. I'll see it when I believe it, or believe it when I see it.
All right.
I don't even know if I'll see it. I don't know.
Moving on to Riddles in the Dark.
That's all we need to say about that.
That's all we need to say about that. Sam, do you have a character in mind?
Yes, I do.
Are we doing so? We'll do questions for a minute, and then you get 3 guesses. Is that a fair way of doing it?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay. I'll start the timer. Do you want me to guess first then?
Sure.
Okay. All right. And you're ready?
Uh-huh.
All right, here we go. Is this character in the first stage?
Yes.
Come on, you got to be a little quicker than that.
Sorry,
only in the
yes.
first stage.
Sorry.
All right, we're restarting.
Yeah.
I'm not using up.
I was looking at something else, and I thought I heard you say, no, sorry. Not the first stage.
Okay, so are we ready to actually hit start?
Is only, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
ready? Starting. This character is only in the first stage.
Yes, that is, yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
is this character a man?
No.
Is this character an elf?
No.
A dwarf?
No.
A Maiar? Of the dark side?
No. Oh, no.
Is it a dragon?
No.
Is it a Balrog?
No.
Is it an orc?
No.
What else could it possibly be? Is it a tree? Is it a spider?
No.
You've got to be kidding me right now. Is it the trees?
No,
Laurel
I
and
said it wasn't
Telperion? Like, huh?
No.
This is ridiculous.
I'm disappointed.
All right. Well, that's my minute, so I get 3 guesses, I guess. I literally don't know.
I thought I gave it away, honestly.
How? You didn't say what this creature is. Character, creature. Is it an evil spirit of some kind?
No. Blasphemy.
Is it Eru?
No.
Is it Tom Bombadil? But you said only the first stage, so no.
No.
I don't even have a third guess. Tulkas. I don't know.
No. Throndor, Lord and King of Eagles in the first stage.
All right. Well played, I guess.
I thought for sure when you said dragons, you would just do the inverse and say eagles. I assumed that's where your mind would go. That's why I thought I'd given it away. But
Kind of forgot that eagles existed, to be honest with you.
that's crazy. I mean, so did Tolkien until, he actually realized, oh crap, there's no other way out of this situation. So eagles.
What is that called? Like a Deus Ex Machina or something like that? Deus Ex Machina, I think it's called.
Gesundheit.
We'll call it a eucatastrophe and call it good. All right. Are you ready for your timer to start?
Yeah. Now I'm really scared.
All right. Ready, set, go.
All right. Is this character in the first stage?
Yes.
Only in the first stage.
No.
Is this character an elf?
Yes.
Is this character fully elf?
Yes.
Is this character of the Noldor?
That I think so. Ish.
Does this character die?
No.
Is this character in The Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Is this character...
Got 10 seconds.
Is this character a male?
Yes.
Is this character have a ring of power?
Kind of.
What?
Time's up.
Yes, that's a yes or no.
Then the answer is depends on when, and that completely gives it away.
So it's Círdan the shipwright.
Correct.
Yeah. That's what
nicely done, though. Nicely done.
Thank you.
You narrowed that down. I will humbly say I'll kick your butt next time.
How was that humble at all?
Well done. Well done. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. That was fun. I don't know why I didn't even think of I kind of forgot eagles existed. Actually,
we did an entire podcast on them. They're sentient beings.
I know. It just whatever. Whatever.
Well, I got mixed up because I wanted to be sure that like Throndir was only in the first age, because I was like, I'm pretty sure he is. And so I just typed in Google, it was like Throndir, Lord of Eagles, and then it said Throndir was a steward of Gondor during the third age, while Throndur was the king of eagles in the first age. So I don't know why Google decided to trip me up that way. I was like, wait, first age, third age, but then it's like, yeah, okay. Gwahir is the third age eagle that we see.
Correct. Yep.
Anyway, we kind of already talked about Tidings of the Fellowship, really. I mean, there's no other Tidings that I know of. I don't think we've had any more reviews or anything like that, but I think we have actually gained a decent amount of listeners, at least first time check it out kind of thing, since our shout out on the Unexpected podcast. So if you've come over from that neck of the woods, welcome. Glad you're here.
Yes.
We are just two brothers who love each other and love Tolkien, and it's fun to just kind of talk. We're pretty far into this time wise of this episode, and we just get to talk, hang out, and talk about Tolkien, some of our favorite things. So welcome, glad to have you as part of the fellowship, and unless you have anything else, we can jump into the meat and potatoes of today's podcast. Sweet. Like I mentioned a long time ago, this episode is going to be on dragons. So one of my favorite quotes from Tolkien himself, which is kind of funny because there really isn't like a prominent dragon in the Lord of the Rings, but he says, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he says, a story without dragons is not one worth telling. And so kind of goes to show like Tolkien's love for the mythical, love for dragons. I'm sure he grew up reading like all the dragon tales and stuff like that. Not the TV show that I grew up watching, of course, but all of the great tales of dragons, because they've always, like, every single people group really has had some kind of a dragon in their mythology in some form or fashion. And so he really loved dragons. And in letter 25, he wrote this. He said, "The dragon is a mythical monster, but in real myth, not merely in the sense of fairy tale. He is a personification of malice, greed, destruction, and the will and courage to resist these things." And so, as we've seen, and we'll get to talk about, he's pretty much saying, like, you know, they're real beings in his world, but they mean something in our world, to, like, it's a caution, it's a warning to not become like them. And so they were created by Melkor or Morgoth in the very beginning, after he was kind of thrown out of the discord of creating everything, the Ainulindale, if you will. And he decides to start creating his own distorted, twisted creations. And so obviously we know he created the Balrogs, and with that he also created dragons. I put in here, I wasn't sure, do they have, like, I know Balrogs are considered like Maiar status. Are dragons also, would you say, in that same status, or are they a drop below? I mean, I'd say they're maybe even more powerful, but I don't know if they have kind of the sentientness of the Maiar status. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I don't think it's ever explicitly stated. When you think of a character like Glaurung, who we'll talk about here in a minute, I want to say yes, based on the powers that he has, but maybe not all dragons have that same level of power. So I guess my answer would be, I feel like they probably all have a Fea of some kind, right? Like the spirit within Tolkien's world, the Fea. We talk about that a lot in our what is it, Finrod and Andreth debate.
Finrod and Andreth. Remember that one? Yeah.
So I think they all have Fea. They're sentient beings, like you said, but maybe they aren't all of, like, Maiar status necessarily.
Sure. Well, something else that I found interesting, and we'll talk about it a little bit as we get into each individual dragon that is named throughout Tolkien's Legendarium, but is that Morgoth breeded them for a long time. And similar to, like, I guess Karkaroth, like the wolf that he, you know, we speculated in our Baron and Luthien podcast, like, what is he feeding this wolf to get him to be this, like, gigantic wolf? Yeah. And similarly, like, I think he somehow, like, creates these dragons, but then it takes a long time for him to actually use them in his battle plans. And I think that's because it takes a long time for him to put in his cruelty, his malice into these dragons to be what he kind of wants them to be. And so,
yeah, those spirits and the Fea that they have take a long time to be twisted and corrupted to the extent that he wants them to be. Would be my guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. But all that to say, they're kind of cheat codes if you think about it. I mean, there's really not a whole lot that the good guys have that can counteract a dragon. Like there really isn't I mean, outside of the eagles that we'll talk a little bit about, which, one-on-one would definitely not compare. But there's really not an easy way to fight dragons. But as we mentioned, dragons, as Tolkien put it, they're just rational creatures of malice. And so we'll see a lot about that, especially in this first dragon. We're going to go kind of chronologically here. So that's going to talk about one that we've talked in depth about in our Children who are in read-through, Glaurung, the father of dragons.
Yeah, so Glaurung is quite possibly my favorite villain in all of Tolkien's Legendarium. Sauron is a great villain when you know more about him than just being a random eye that Peter Jackson created.
Right.
And there's a lot of depth to Sauron. Glaurung still might be my favorite. I'll be honest, I'm really kind of disappointed that we weren't doing like the video recordings and the YouTube stuff back when we were doing our Children of Hurin read through.
Oh yeah.
Because those were some of my favorite episodes. I've gone back and like re-listened to the whole thing. So if you have any interest in reading Children of Hurin, just go to our Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever and scroll way back. Granted, we probably are a lot worse at this since it's 3 years ago or whatever it was.
Or a lot better. Who knows?
That's a good point. But it's fantastic. I really enjoyed doing a read through. But with that said, Glaurung is kind of the chief. I don't know. I'd say Morgoth is technically like the chief antagonist, but Glaurung is a close second. So Glaurung, like Sam already mentioned and alluded to, is the father of dragons. He is the first dragon that Morgoth makes, and he is the first Urloki, as he's called, which is a fire drake. So he can breathe fire, but he is not a winged fire drake. So Glaurung is like a snake, basically, like a giant lizard. He can't fly like some of these later dragons or Smaug, like you've seen in The Hobbit. But that doesn't mean he's not incredibly powerful. And Tolkien even says a spirit of malice that took shape in the hatred of Morgoth. A spirit of malice that took shape in the hatred of Morgoth. So he literally was formed in the hatred of Morgoth, which shows just how evil he is. And throughout that read through, he keeps popping up as having all these incredible powers. He's able to like hypnotize people just by looking at them. He's able to speak words of, I don't know, what would you call it, Sam? Words of manipulation, I guess.
I mean, manipulation and complete deceit too. Like his
deceit, that's a good word.
He makes lies seem true. He makes you think that one thing's going on when really it's the other thing.
Yeah, exactly. He's very good at that. So he's a very in-depth character that's fascinating. But he actually first appeared about 100 years after the Daglar Aglareb, or the Glorious Battle. I believe that was the second battle of the big battles of Beleriand in the First Age, where the Noldor actually pushed. They basically dominated Morgoth and pushed him all the way back to Angband, and they sieged Angband for few hundred years, like 300-400 years, something like that. And about 100 years after they did that, Glaurung was still like a young pup, right? He wanted to go prove himself, but he wasn't full grown. His malice and everything had not been poured into him yet. But he decided to go out and challenge him. And he was still just small, young, not fully grown, and went out without Morgoth's blessing. And he basically got his butt kicked by Fingon and a bunch of the Noldorian elves. And so they basically just used him as a pincushion. Their arrows actually did damage to him because he was still young and his armor wasn't fully developed. And Tolkien says that he retreated back to Angband in humiliation. So you can imagine that probably put him off even more to just wanting to grow bigger, stronger, more evil, more hateful, and all these things. And so Morgoth was actually really pissed off and was like, "You are not allowed to go back out until I say so." And so unfortunately, that time was the Dagor Bragollach, or the Battle of Sudden Flame, which is when the siege of Angband was finally broken, when Morgoth sent I guess lava from them and fire from Thangorodrim, from the mountains. The dragons came out. Basically, he loosed all his armies and completely destroyed the area. 2 of Gladriel's brothers died in this battle. Pretty crazy battle, but that's when Glaurung was finally fully formed and ready to go. And I put in a couple of little excerpts here that were interesting. So it says, in the front of that fire came Glaurung the Golden, father of dragons, in his full might, and in his train were Balrogs, and behind them came the black armies of the orcs in such multitudes as the Noldor had never seen before or imagined. So you got to imagine, if the Balrogs, who are in theory Maiar spirits, right, are behind Glaurung, what does that tell us about your previous question?
Sure, that's a good point. Yeah, if he's leading the charge, man.
Yeah.
Big bad guy.
Big bad guy, big baddie. So with that, they basically dominate. Battle's over. They win. The siege is broken. And then later on in the Nir Naiath Arnoediad, which is the battle of what, Sam?
Unnumbered Tears.
Bingo. Which they try to allude to in Rings of Prime, but are terrible at it. In the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, or the Nir Naiath Arnoediad, it's just a fun one to say. He really got to show his prowess again. And so another little snippet that Tolkien says, it says, if not for them, and he's referring to the dwarves of Belegost, Glaurung and his brood, so there's more of them, would have withered all that was left of the Noldor. But the Naugrim, which is another term for dwarves, the Naugrim made a circle about him when he assailed them, and even his mighty armor was not foolproof against the blows of their great axes. And when in his rage he turned and struck down Osgal, lord of Belegost, and crawled over him, with his last stroke Osgal drove his knife into his belly, and so wounded him that he fled the field, and the beasts of Angband in dismay followed after him. So a couple things with that. What does that remind you of? Osgal.
Osgal.
His actions. What does that remind you of?
That kind of reminds me of the battle between Fingolfin and Morgoth, where he's able to wound his foot pretty badly, and obviously Fingolfin still dies there. But I mean, he drove his knife into his belly. That reminds me of Turin, of how he was able to try to kill Glaurung. But is there something specific you're alluding to? What am I missing here?
What I believe you're missing.
Read.
No, that's okay. I was genuine. No. I was genuinely curious if you would kind of have the same realization that I did with that. It's Sam and Shelob, basically. Remember Tolkien says sure. No hand, even if it was wielded by Turin or one of the heroes of old, could have dealt her such a wound as this, because it was her own cruelty, her own malice that slammed down on top of the prick, which was Sting. Which, fun fact, was created around the same time. So I don't know. That really made me kind of think about that, because even Osgal couldn't really hurt him that bad. But because he crawled over him, the weight of Glaurung was, I don't know, made sense in my head.
Sure. No, yeah, that makes sense in my head now that I look like an idiot because I didn't think about that earlier. So thanks for that. But continue, please.
I forgot about eagles. I think we're clear. I think we're good. I forgot eagles existed. And so I don't know, just kind of interesting. We kind of already discussed it, but I do think Glaurung probably had like a Maiar, had his own Fea. He was a legit spirit, I believe, personally.
Yeah.
I feel like I put a quote in here in the wrong spot. in letter 144. So we'll address that quote later, because I feel like that's definitely in the wrong spot. So my bad. Anyways, with that, You see him later on. He's tricking Nienor. He's tricking Turin. He's Turin's, he built this bridge in Nargothrond that he shouldn't have. Ulmo's messengers tell him to destroy the bridge. He doesn't, out of pride, and Glaurung uses that bridge to sack Nargothrond, convince Turin that he has to go rescue his mom when his mom's nowhere near where he told him she was. And so he's just incredibly conniving, if you will. He's really good at manipulating the thoughts of others, and he actually puts a spell over Turin's sister to forget who she is. And as Sam and I like to kind of awkwardly dance around often, Turin ends up marrying his own sister because they don't know who each other are, and then he ends up impregnating her as well. Right. And just to show you the evil that is within Glaurung, in his dying breath after Turin kills him, in his dying breath, he lifts the spell off of Nienor, Turin's sister, and basically reveals to her the horror of what her own actions were. And it's a little snippet that I'll just read to you, but it really encompasses Glaurung as a character. But he says, "Hail, Nienor, daughter of Hurin. We meet again ere we end," which is interesting. He's already predicting that she's going to die.
Already knows.
"I give you joy that you have found your brother at last, and now you shall know him, a stabber in the dark, treacherous to foes, faithless to friends, and a curse unto his kin. Turin, son of Hurin, but the worst of all his deeds you shall feel in yourself." And then he died. The worst of all his deeds you shall feel in yourself. He's alluding to the baby that is growing within her body.
It's awful. It's I remember reading through this, and we've had a whole podcast on this part, and just the uneasiness that you feel. This is unlike anything that you read in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Like, this is Tolkien going off the deep end when it comes to just morality and evil. But he also, he sticks to the laws of morality in a lot of sense. The laws that he grew up as, like the greatest of his evils. And Turin had a lot of evils, but the greatest of his evils was, what was going on between brother and sister. And it wasn't him accidentally killing his best friend or accidentally killing whatever that guy was. What's his name? As he jumps off the cliff naked. Oh, you know what I'm talking about.
Jumps off the cliff naked.
He's chasing the guy. Orc play.
Saros.
Saros. Yeah.
Saros.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. It's brutal, and there's no. You think about like the death of villains. There's often like a moment of clarity or something where they maybe admit they're wrong, or they're like, I wish I could have been different or something. Tolkien's like, nah, I'm just gonna let this villain like do his worst. It's his very last breath before he goes out. Like, he just doubles down on his evil and malice. And again, I think that stems from his creation, right? And the malice and the hatred of Morgoth. Yeah,
it's I don't know, Glaurung, if you read Children of Hurin, take time to appreciate his dialogue, because he really is just the absolute best dragon, and in my opinion, best antagonist in Tolkien's Legendarium.
100%. Yeah. Give us your thoughts. Let us know what you think of Morgoth's first worm. We'll keep going here. We got a few more dragons to hit. So Seth mentioned he found this one, Gostir. It was once a named dragon of Lost Tales, and all we know about him is that Gostir is a dreadful dragon of the lower slopes of the mountains of Gondolin. So perhaps maybe he helped in the fall of Gondolin is maybe what we're thinking about. I didn't even remember. And I haven't read the whole Fall of Gondolin book. I need to go and do that. I think maybe that'd be a fun read through at some point. But how did you find him? How did you? When I looked at it, I was like, oh, there's only these guys. But I had no idea Gostir was one of them. Yeah,
I was watching a YouTube video a while back, and somebody had mentioned him, and I filed it oh, that's interesting. But I guess he's and I didn't actually find the exact reference, but it's in the Lost Tales, I believe, where it's in the back of the book, it's under what do you call it? Where it's like a list of names. It's not really the appendices. It's
appendices.
I guess it could be
Index, maybe.
Yeah, something where like certain names are expanded on a little bit more, where it's like you can find this page or whatever. And basically that's all it says about him, is that he was a dreadful dragon that presumptively resided on the lower slopes of the mountains of Gondolin. So probably I would assume up north and not down on the Crissaegrim on the south, where, as you mentioned earlier, Throndor resides.
Attaboy, now you remember him. Now you put some respect on that name.
Got a little bit in that brain box now.
There you go. Yeah, so obviously, if you guys know any more or have any theories about Gostyr, we'd love to hear. Please enlighten us. But moving on kind of chronologically in this sense to Uncalagon the Black. And there's not a whole lot we know about this one other than what we see in kind of the final moments between the War of Wrath here. But he was a winged fire drake. And so this was Morgoth's biggest baddies, if you will. Like he had been brooding and maturing this dragon for a very, 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 very long time, longer than any of the other dragons. And because of that, he is the biggest dragon in Tolkien's Legendarium. He was not just like Glaurung or Smaug, and Calagon was a monster of apocalyptic scale. And so his very apocalyptic, you like that. His very fall altered the geography of Beleriand. And so obviously when he fell, he landed on the mountains. Is it the Anfalglith, or what is those mountains? Sorry, not the Thangorodrim. Yeah. And just reshaped the land completely. Do you have like on your map or anything like what that reshaping did to Beleriand or Middle Earth?
It didn't really do anything to Beleriand per se. I mean, after the War of Wrath, which is kind of like the end of the battle, if you will.
That's
Beleriand falls into the sea, right? Except for, I believe, Hemring is the little island that doesn't, potentially. But basically, he falls on top of the Thangorodrim, which are these three peaks that, based on some of the research I was doing, they were estimated to be, the three mountains, their peaks were estimated to be 35,000 feet tall and 5 miles across. And Calagon the Black demolished all three of those peaks at one time when he fell down. So I don't know, man. You tell me, how big is that dragon?
Yeah, just a little bit of research that I did. It would mean that he was approximately 1.2 miles long, I imagine, from like wing to wing. So obviously we see Smaug to scale in The Hobbit, which I mean, of all the woes of The Hobbit that Peter Jackson did, Smaug was great. I thought Smaug was really well done.
Agreed.
And he was huge, obviously, as we see. But this dude... And Calagon is 20 to 40 times bigger than Smaug. Like, I don't even know how you put that on a screen. You can't. I mean, there's no way you do that. Like, as much as I would love to see, as much as I'd love to see like Erendil on his ship, like, you know, chasing forward and fighting in Calagon and then like slaying him and stuff. Like, I just don't think this is ever going to be a possibility, just because of the magnitude of Uncalagon.
It's like a magic school bus where they like go into their stomach type of thing, you know, like the like Erendil would have to like fly into his mouth, like up his nose or something. You know what I mean? Like he's so big,
like Ant-Man style.
Yeah. It's just wild.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Like when you actually look at like how big this dragon would have been. And also, when you have that much mass, is it even possible to fly at that point? I don't know. Apparently, obviously, but I mean,
had to have been somehow.
Gosh. You know, when Smaug says my wings are like a hurricane, what would that make this guy's wings?
It's a good point.
But anyway, so like I mentioned, of Erendil, the bane of Uncalagon, if you will. He decided to build a ship of timber, Felden, Nimberthil to sail to the seas of the west, and he named this ship the Vingulot, the foam flower, and Brightwort's timbers and in it were bound the Silmaril upon his brow. And so that's kind of his claim to fame. He's eventually put in the sky with this star, this Silmarillion. He's kind of quoted as a star. But he pleads. He goes and he sails to the west, does something nobody's ever done, and he pleads with the Valar to come help in the battle against Morgoth and the dragons. And they kind of agree. They're actually off at a feast or something. And who was it? The Herald of Manwë that season?
Yeah.
Yanway, and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here." And he's like, "Help, please help us." And they're like, "Fine, I guess we'll go and help us out." And so Yanway is actually the one that leads the host of Valar back to Middle Earth, which has never really happened before. But the full host of the Maiar and the Vanyar elves, they march with them, along with many of the Noldor who represented and repented and returned from Aman, from what was going on there. So they came in great strength and light, and they descended upon the shores of Middle Earth, and all the north was ablaze with their glory. So in this, it's a contrast to the blaze of the dragons. Yeah. Now we have the blaze of the good light. You have a blaze of a dark light, of a evil light in the flames of the dragons. Now we have a blaze of glory in the good guys. So things are going well for the Valar in this war. As soon as they show up, and Morgoth's starting shaking his boots a little bit, but then he shows his darkest hand and he looses his dragons, again, Calagon being the biggest of those. And this is a quote. He says, "But Morgoth made ready his last and greatest strength. He loosed upon his foes the winged dragons that had not before been seen, and so sudden and ruinous was the onset of the dreadful fleet of the host of the Valar was driven back, for the coming of the dragons was with great thunder and lightning and a tempest of fire." And so they're driven back just kind of by the surprise of Morgoth. He always seems to have another card up his sleeve in every battle that he's in. However, he did not take into account the half-elven Arendil. He comes shining, this is another quote, "shining with the white flame, and about Vingalot were gathered all the great birds," those are the eagles of heaven, "and Thorondir was their captain, and there was a battle in the air all day through the dark night of doubt. Ere the rising of the sun, Arendil slew Calagon the Black, the mightiest of the dragon host, and cast him from the sky, and he fell upon the towers of the Thangorodrim, those 3 peaks, and they were broken in his ruin." So as amazing as this dragon was, it doesn't really do anything if you think about it. Like, obviously he has a big battle and probably took out plenty of elves and maybe had some good fighting with the Valar and the Maiar, but dude doesn't have any claim to fame. Glaurung at least gets some good dialogue and is the result of Turin and Nianor's death, but Calagon, dude, you're just as people want to look at the Denver Broncos and look at them at 8-2, say you're a fraud. And Calagon, you're kind of a fraud. You're the 8-2 Broncos. Like, all bark, no bite, I guess. I don't know. I shouldn't do that to my own team.
You can disparage the Broncos. They're frauds. I mean, until proven otherwise, they're frauds.
Sure.
Which I love them. Obviously, Colorado State, sweatshirt here, but they're
Represent.
frauds. Anyways, yeah. That's one of those things where it's in my Tolkien does a very good job of writing story and keeping the importance of the story at heart. I mean, this is a theme even through Lord of the Rings. Like, think about the death of Boromir. It's basically Aragorn shows up and has a couple words with him and he's dead. What we picture in our minds is Peter Jackson's interpretation of what happened to Boromir, because it's not described. Basically, Aragorn shows up and there's arrows in him and they have a quick conversation. He's dead. And then even the Battle of Helm's Deep or the Battle of Minas Tirith, like all those battles, they're very, I'll say, lightly explained from Tolkien's perspective. He really doesn't go in depth in those battles. And I know we've talked about this before and kind of speculated, like maybe he's just seen the horrors of war so much that he doesn't like dwelling. He didn't like dwelling on it. He didn't want to focus on it potentially. But this is one of those stories where it's like, man, I wish he would have fleshed out this battle scene more. Like the War of Wrath, when you try to picture all the different moving parts coming together with, Morgoth is a little I should use careful language here. He's a little baby hiding out in Thangarodrim because of what Fingolfin did to him, right? Sending everybody else. And on the flip side of that, the Valar show up. Yonway is leading the charge. They bring all these mighty elves from Aman. Pretty much all the hosts of Beleriand show up. Like, everybody is there. And then you've got the eagles, you've got the dragons, you've got Balrogs and trolls and orcs, and you've got all these. Like, this is an awesome battle. And
it'd be amazing.
It's like a couple pages in the Silmarillion and moving on. Like, I wish we would have seen more. I wish I could have seen, in my mind's eye, Arendelle slaying and Calagon.
Yeah, I even went back and was like, how did that happen? And the only thing that kind of comes to mind, which I don't know, because obviously we see in the Beren and Luthien story, Morgoth has the 3 Silmarils on his crown, right? But I wonder, I mean, Arendelle had to have used the Silmarils' power somehow, to burn through Ancalagon or something like that. I mean, because that was the one thing that we know about Silmarils is they can't really be touched by evil. And so maybe that's, he flies up there, dodges a fire blast, and then takes a Silmaril and, plunges it through his heart or something. I mean, I imagine that's probably how it would have to have happened, because this dude's not going to be...
And his cousins are trying to peck out the eyes of Ancalagon.
Yeah. This guy's not going to be taken by any kind of sword or spear. I mean, he's a mile, almost a mile and a half long. Like, there's no way a meter long sword could do anything to him. And so,
no, would have
been really cool. But
I had the exact same thought of you. I was like, how could this be possible? And I came to the same conclusion. It has to somehow be the Silmaril that he has. And kind of the same thing, like, you remember when Kakarov ate Baron's hand with the Silmaril, it burned him from the inside and basically caused a rage within him because it hurt him so bad. And it's like, it had to have been something similar to that.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to, I meant to put this quote in the doc, and I thought I did. I guess I'm just an idiot, but I really wanted to read this excerpt from the Fellowship of the Ring when Gandalf is explaining to Frodo about the ring, because it might ring a bell for some of you guys. Gandalf spoke to him and told Frodo Baggins of the One Ring. It has been said that dragon fire could melt and consume the rings of power, but there is not now any dragon left on earth in which the old fire is hot enough, nor was there ever any dragon. Not even Ancalagon the Black could have harmed the One Ring, the ruling ring that was made by Sauron himself. And that's in the Fellowship of the Ring. Like, how cool that he tied that in.
Yeah. Yeah, and that also implies, too, that, like, the One Ring created by Sauron, like, obviously his cruelty, his malice, everything's put into it. But I have to imagine the One Ring was not crafted anywhere in the likes of the Silmarils that Fëanor created, in the sense of their power and their contrasting abilities, right? And so it just kind of furthers the fan theory of the Silmaril had to be the only thing to kill that big old fire drake guy.
Yeah.
But
that's a good point. I hadn't even thought about that. Thank you. That's a cool connection. Huh.
You're welcome.
See, that's another thing. It's just like, I wish Tolkien could have lived another 100 years and expanded on all this stuff.
Yeah, or at least, like, obviously Christopher Tolkien did an incredible job doing that exact thing that you just mentioned. But I kind of wish, like, I don't know, this seems like the descendants of Tolkien now just are fine taking money and just not really caring, which is, I mean, I can't fault them too much, I guess, when you're being offered, like, tens of millions of dollars simply for the rights of this story. But at the same time, it would have been fun to have, I don't know, a last, like, not a gatekeeper necessarily, but somebody in the sense of Christopher Tolkien and the passion for this, that knows the stories well, that, could have continued on some kind of, I don't know, continuation or even just more in depth, like, oh, here's a letter that we didn't find, or here's a scribble that we, was passed down to us. I don't know, but it seems like that's all kind of just died away, which is okay.
It's no coincidence, in my opinion, that Rings of Power really started kicking into gear as soon as Christopher died, and that disgusts me. Because Simon the head of the Tolkien estate is nothing like his dad, which is a bummer. Real bummer.
I'd put him on the same plane of like maybe a Grima a little bit. You know?
Okay.
A little worm tonguey.
A little worm tummy. Tummy. Speaking of worms and tongues and things, we're moving on here. We're getting back on track. Don't you worry. We're getting back on track.
Attaboy. Well
Attaboy. We're moving on to Scatha. And what's hilarious is as we were putting the doc together, we were about to hit record and Sam goes, "Who's Scatha? I don't even remember." And so I'm sure he does now. That
sounds familiar, but
I'm sure he does now, and if not, this will be interesting to him. But Scatha is a third age dragon, and he is a cold drake from the north, so he can't breathe fire. And I don't believe he flies either. He's just a cold drake of the mountains of the north. He lives in the Gray Mountains. So if you're looking at a map of Middle Earth, the top part, I saw Sam yawn and he's getting after me. Oh my gosh. I didn't know those were 15, contagious over video. Bro, I am usually in bed by 8:30 and I'm up at 4. So like this is way past my bedtime.
Yeah, this is tough.
But it's still a blast. So apologies for the yawns, Absolutely. But stuff happens when it's late in the evening. Anyways,
that's right.
If you're looking at a map of Middle Earth, if you look on the kind of the upper right corner ish, middle right side, just to the east of the Misty Mountains is Mirkwood, that big giant forest that Bilbo goes through. If you go straight north of that, there's a mountain range. That mountain range is the Gray Mountains, and that's where Scatha is located. And he's described as being blind and silent with a white belly. Cool, I guess. That's all I really know about him. And really, there's not a whole lot that's known about him, aside from him like doing a lot of battle with the dwarves of the Gray Mountains. He basically pushes them out. If I recall correctly, and I'd have to be fact checked on this, but I'm pretty sure like Thorin and co, like their ancestors were in the Gray Mountains and were forced out by Scatha. Again, I could be wrong with that. But regardless, he has a vast den, and it's said that it stank like a dark tomb. And basically in this den, it contained a massive dwarf hoard of treasure, which included sharp, bright stones and a silver horn that was made by the dwarves. That horn, believe it or not, is actually the horn that Éowyn gives to Merry, basically during the Rite of the Rohirrim. It's the horn of the Rohirrim, which is the same horn that Merry, when they do the scouring of the Shire at the end of the Return of the King, that he blows when he's like fear fire foes and he's like blowing his horn. That's the same horn when he rises Buckland, which is kind of cool.
That's neat.
That horn comes from a dragon horde on the complete other side of the mountains, hundreds of miles away. So fun little nugget there.
I remember this guy.
Yeah, see.
I'm getting there.
There's the light bulb. But he actually also collected bones as, quote, toys, and he made a bed out of these bones. And he particularly liked to, for whatever reason, he liked the hands of dwarves and the skulls of men. So his bed was the hands of dwarves and the skulls of men. Sounds comfy.
Tiny little, but chubby hands make for a nice, like, smooth surface. But then,
how many fingers do dwarves have?
Obviously, you have to. The same?
I don't know. Just a question.
I think the same.
All right, fair enough. Anyways,
Owle's like hammering away, and you get 4 fingers.
Whoops, there's 4. Owle. Okay, this is bad. Anyways,
it's bad. It's real bad.
So, as Sam and I discussed when what was the name of that movie, the animated one that came out? I still haven't seen it. Yes, War of the Rohirrim. When that came out, we actually did an episode about Helm Hammerhand and kind of went over some of the history of the Rohirrim and stuff, which I'm incredibly biased, but I love that episode too. It was really fun to go into. But we talk a lot more about Fram and everything in that one. But Scatha was killed by a random man named Fram, son of Frumgar. Cool cool thing about Fram is he actually created Framsburg, which is at the very like origin of the Grey Mountains of the Anduin, which is that massive river that the Fellowship goes down. At the very north end of that, he creates this place called Framsburg after killing Scatha. And he basically becomes the father of the Eothid, which are later the Rohirrim. So he's basically the daddy of the Rohirrim, which is awesome. But he also, after killing Scatha, became, and we'll maybe talk a little bit more about this with Smaug, but he sat on the treasure for a long time. And there's that dragon sickness. Is that real? Is it not real? I think Peter Jackson blew it out of proportion. We can get it more into it later. But Fram became very possessive, I'll say, over the treasure. And so the dwarves, a lot of them came after him and they were like, hey, you have a ton of our treasure, that's ours. And Fram sat on top of the treasure and refused to give any of the gold back to the dwarves. Hands. Well, that's a good point too. It's probably their hands and the skulls of men. But he refused to give anything back to the dwarves. And he was just like, nah, this is mine. But Tolkien does say that he did send the teeth of Scatha, and he wrote a message with that gift. And it said, jewels such as these you will not match in your treasuries, for they are hard to come by. And the dwarves were insulted by that, and they kill him, and that's the end of Fram. And the dwarves get their cursed gold back, I guess. But a couple of things.
It's happened
First of all, how absolutely BA is Fram to just kill this dragon and then become the father of like an entire people? Like, how awesome is that?
So, I mean, it is awesome, but the dragon was blind. The dragon couldn't breathe fire. Couldn't fly. I mean, it wasn't like.
So what does that say about the dwarves that got their butts kicked by him then? They're no Azagol, let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's very true.
I don't know. I just think that whole story is rather funny, where it's this random blind dragon that's terrorizing dwarves. Some guy shows up, kills the dragon, insults the dwarves by giving him a gift of teeth, and then gets killed for it. Which,
right?
Dwarves have a way of killing people over treasure that they want. They do that. They kind of do that.
Yeah. Quite petty of them, if you will.
I see what you did there. Yeah, so that's Scatha. Fascinating dragon. Again, I wish there was more fleshed out about that story. But it's kind of fun to speculate and come up with your own theories. Yeah, but that's 3, or I guess technically 4 out of 5 that we have named, and we'll kind of go into this last one here.
Yes, the final dragon that I think every like average Tolkien enjoy, like anyone who like Lord of the Rings enjoys the cinematic universe would know and love, and that is Smaug, not Smog. It's Smaug.
Smaug.
The chiefest and greatest of calamities, as Bilbo puts it. Seth went ahead and put in the doc every single
let's hear him.
Yeah, so we have all the names of Smaug. So the chiefest and greatest of calamities, the golden, the impenetrable, king under the mountain, Lord Smaug, the magnificent, the mighty, O Smaug, the stupendous, the terrible, the tremendous, the tyrannical, the unassailably wealthy, and your magnificence. And so if you remember, this is one of my favorite like chapters in all of Tolkien's Legendarium, is just when Bilbo goes in and he's trying to find the Arkenstone, runs into Smaug, and they have this dialogue back and forth. He's wearing the ring, obviously, but he's talking to him, and he's just buttering him up like a biscuit.
Oh yeah.
Is, and why wouldn't you? I mean, he's trying to like survive. He's realizing like, oh, maybe I can use my words, because obviously my little sting here isn't going to do anything to this gigantic dragon. but he just gives them all this kind of just real nice niceties. And Bilbo's a very respectable hobbit, very good with words, and so
yes, he is. Well, doesn't Tolkien even say like, and this is how you must speak to dragons if you ever run into this situation? Like there's something where the narrator basically says like, this is how you handle dragons.
Yeah, that is something about The Hobbit, is there's kind of a random narrator that pops in every once in a while, and it's just Tolkien, I think, just reminding us like, yeah, if in just in case, if you're ever talking to a dragon, this is how you should do it. Don't piss him off. Don't try to challenge him. Just tell him all the good things he wants to hear about himself. And and this is probably the reason why Bilbo was able to talk to Smaug. Why Smaug didn't just kill him in the first place is he's like, oh wow, yeah, keep coming. What else you got? And what other nice things have you heard about me? What other compliments have you heard about me? So really fun. I think again that's where Peter Jackson did do a pretty good job of. I thought Cumberbatch, yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch was the voice of Smaug, and he really did. He did a really good job. His voice is strong and menacing, and yet very very dragon-esque. And honestly, there's kind of a hint of Glaurung in the way that he portrays Smaug, especially when talking about the dragon sickness and talking about like, I almost want you to take the Arkenstone just to see Oakenshield suffer. Talks about that. But anywho, so he's a fire drake of the north and is considered the last great dragon of Middle Earth. So again, going back to what I mentioned about Tolkien's very first quote that we talked about, seems about 2 hours ago now, probably not that long ago, but he pretty much said like, if there's not a dragon, it's not a story worth telling. Well, Lord of the Rings doesn't really have a dragon. This is the last dragon, and you could say The Hobbit is part of Lord of the Rings. It's just a prequel, so I guess you can consider that his dragon for the story. But he's the kind of the last dragon that we see in Tolkien's Legendarium. So there's not a whole lot we know about him before he attacks the Lonely Mountain in Dale, but he was likely a part of Encalagon's brood of winged fire drakes and fled after the War of Wrath. Probably saw Arendelle stick that bad boy in the chest with a Silmaril and was like, I don't want any of that. I'm out. Just dips out. A witless worm, as Thorin puts it a couple times in the cinematic universe, just dips out. And so that's the interesting part of this, because. And I'm curious your thoughts on more of maybe a serious note. Like we've talked about the Battle of Five Armies in a previous podcast. We talked about like the importance of the position of the mountain, but also of the allegiance of Smaug. And so at this point, Smaug and Sauron, they're not. He owes no allegiance to Sauron. He's just kind of rogue. Morgoth has been taken in chains away from and put in the void by Tolkien as he's laughing in his face. Which I just realized how similar their names were, Tolkis and Tolkien. I wonder if Tolkien was like, yeah, that's my guy. Like that's how I do it. I don't know. Tolkis is a great character, but anyway,
he is. I love him.
I just wonder, like Smaug is just kind of, he's just doing stuff. He's not bound to Sauron. He's not really bound to Morgoth anymore. He still has probably Morgoth's hatred and malice in him, but now he's just a selfish worm, out and about. And as we know, dragons love treasure, and so he hears about this incredible hoard that Thrain has, and he's like, let's go check it out. And he goes and destroys everything, obviously, and just kind of sits on the pile of treasure. But I don't know. You think there's any sort of like if he is a part of that battle, War of Wrath, he flees. What's going on in his mind? Why does he choose to settle down here? Why does Tolkien decide that like he's kind of got a mind of his own? Why doesn't he already align with Sauron? I don't know. I'm just a lot of speculation here.
Yeah. I think ultimately it comes down to when the dragons were created. How did you describe it at the beginning about like pride and envy, or what was it? That it was like the dragons are a warning of these certain traits, right?
Yeah, mythical monster, but in real myth, not merely the sense of fairy tale. They're a personification of malice, greed, and destruction, and the will and courage to resist these things. Yeah,
so with that, I think that's probably why and there's speculation, was he a third age dragon, a late second age dragon? I like the idea that he was a first age dragon better. I like that better.
Sure.
It's just more fun. But with that, I think that he was just created to be prideful and greedy and all these negative traits, to where it's like, well, his master's gone. He's just thinking about himself. He doesn't care. As long as he's got a treasure hoard and a full belly of dwarves, like what else can you want for as a dragon? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't need anything else beyond that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. He's just content being a thug, I guess. A loner who is enjoying treasure in dwarf hands, I guess. A quote from Smaug himself. He says, "I laid low the warriors of old, and their like is not in the world today. Then I was young and tender. Now I am old and strong. Strong. So, to that point, what are the warriors of old? Are they those first age warriors? Are they second age warriors? Are they just earlier in the third age? Who knows? But obviously he's been around a while, and he's kind of grown to, I guess he picks and chooses his battles at this point now. He's old, he knows he's strong, but at the same time, he's like, I don't really want to do a whole lot anymore. But again, he hears about this incredible hoard of treasure over at Erebor, and so he attacks the Lonely Mountain and the Kingdoms of Dale in the Third Age, 2770. He attacks Lake Town and takes for himself the title King Under the Mountain, and creates a huge dragon fort of treasure. And then when we see Bilbo come in, he's approached by Bilbo in the year 2941, and he has that obviously very lovely, flattery conversation that we just talked about there. However, Smaug learns a lot more from Bilbo than he intended to, and he flies out to deliver punishment upon the men of Lake Town. Bilbo makes it slip that he was a barrel rider. Talks about where he was coming, and Smaug's not as stupid. Like I think Peter Jackson made it look like he'd just been sleeping the last, what would that have been, like, I guess a couple hundred, almost like 150 years, but no, he would go out and he'd eat horses and goats and lambs and deer and whatever else. Like, the dude still had to survive, and so he would go out and he would do scouting trips and stuff and kind of keep a check on his land, and so he knew a lot more than Bilbo thought he knew, and Bilbo accidentally let it slip where he was from, and men of Lake Town pay for it. He also talks about just where his armor has come from. He says, "My armor is like 10-fold shields. My teeth are swords. My claws are spears. The shock of my tail is a thunderbolt. My wings are a hurricane, and my breath, death." So he's pretty full of himself, if we'll just put it that way. He's quite
all those things that Bilbo called him. Yeah,
but all those things Bilbo called him. But he has reason to be. And so he goes out there with that cockiness of just, I'll teach him a lesson. I'll show him how it's done. But yet he's slain by Bard the Bowman with a black arrow that pierced the single vulnerable spot in Smaug's armor, the one little tiny spot. From the Unfinished Tales, we have a little excerpt from Gandalf. He says, "With his far-stretched right hand, Sauron could have done terrible harm in the north, dragonfire and savage swords in Eriodor. But that had been averted because I met Thorin Oakenshield on an evening on the edge of the spring not far from Bree, a chance meeting, as we say in Middle-earth," which is actually really well alluded to in, I think it's the second Hobbit movie. There's like the intro is that whole meeting between Gandalf and Thorin at Bree, at the Prancing Pony, which actually is kind of neat, because I love, he says, like a chance meeting, as we say in Middle Earth. But again, I think we see there's powers that be that are making sure these things are happening. Powers that be that aren't like completely coming in like the War of Wrath and like, okay, fine, we'll take care of this for you, but like, hey, just give you a little nudge in the right direction,
Yeah, the powers that be are definitely Eru, rearranging the world as, some might say all things work out for his good, right? So, yeah, Eru, I believe, definitely had his hand in that. But it's in the Unfinished Tales, and I just love that, how Gandalf's kind of like reminiscing and thinking back, like, yeah, if I didn't find Thorin and send this tiny little hobbit out on this crazy quest, things might have been very different. Like, you just start at his thought process of, how do I get rid of this dragon? And then the plan that he comes up with is sending a hobbit with 13 dwarves. It's like, what?
Yeah. It doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. But he's a minor. He's a being of the divine spirit and a servant of the secret fire, and so he knows a lot more than he alludes to. So, but yeah, pretty incredible. Just that whole sequence on it. Yeah, again, if Sauron were to somehow convince Smaug to be like, hey, let's join forces like we once did, jump back in there, and golly, that would have made things a lot more difficult.
Well, and as you go through,
maybe he would have killed quickly, but I don't know.
I doubt it. I mean, if you go through some of the, I forget if it's Unfinished Tales. I think it is Unfinished Tales, or it might be the appendices. I don't remember. It's been a while. But Tolkien goes, and again, we went in, one of our podcasts covers this, but it goes into the battle in the north, right? When Minas Tirith is being attacked and everything. The battle in the north, I mean, Dane Ironfoot died, and wasn't it Bard's grandson died, and like it was this massive battle in the north. And if if Smaug was present for that, I don't think it would have gone well at all.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, those are the dragons. They're amazing. It really is cool to see how Tolkien used his creativity, not just for the good things, not just for the bad things, but all of it. Like how in-depth and how detailed some of these characters are, especially like Glaurung, and just the impact they have on the story themselves. But yet he always goes to show that it's in each and every one of those situations, it seems like an underdog fight, and it goes to show like there's some good in this world and it's worth fighting for, and that little good, the small random acts of kindness, little acts of courage are what can take out dragons. Like if we're trying to make an allegory here, which may have not been what he's going for, but at the same time, like, he talks about the personification of greed and malice and destruction. And, when you look at the dragons in your own life, like how are you going to defeat those dragons? You're not going to defeat them with a gigantic army of, you're not going to fight fire with fire. It's not going to work. You're going to defeat the dragons through things like, a tiny hobbit / a random bardsman. You're going to defeat him by one guy flying up there with a Silmarillion. You're gonna defeat him by surprising Glaurung and stabbing him in the stomach with a nice sword. Like it's just all these underdog stories, all these dragons. Fram just randomly like, dude, take it. Like I'm gonna take you out. I think it goes to show that Tolkien is trying to say you can slay your dragons. I don't know what dragon you're fighting right now. And for you guys out there, if you're listening to this, I don't know what your dragon is. Maybe it's addiction. Maybe it's laziness. Maybe it's relationship issues. But you can slay that dragon. And it's not a matter of how hard you have to work. It's a matter of understanding maybe your need for humility. Your need to take a step back, reanalyze the situation, and figure out how to slay this dragon in a unorthodox way, as Tolkien has done multiple times throughout his legendarium. But I don't know. That just came in my head. Figured I'd share it. But I could probably preach a whole sermon on that, and maybe I should. But now is not the time, as my eyelids are closing rapidly. And so
that would be a very interesting sermon, using all these examples of different ways to slay the dragon and then tying that in. That could be good. That could be good, Sam. Then again, you'd probably get a lot of people like, "Oh, here we go again. Here we go again."
I think at this point they're over my Tolkien references, but hey, this could be entertaining.
Keep it coming. So I just wanted to include this little at the end here. This is a reference to dragons at Tolkien in his letters. In letter 144, he's responding to this lady, and it's actually a really beautiful letter. It's, I don't know, a few pages long. It's an awesome letter, but he goes into a bunch of different topics, but she basically asks like, well, what happened to all the dragons? Are they all gone? And Tolkien says in this letter, he says, they have not stopped since they were active in far later times, close to our own, which is interesting. I'll come back to that. And then he goes on and he says, have I said anything to suggest a final ending of dragons? If so, it should be altered. The only passage I can think of is that there is not now any dragon left in which the old fire is hot enough. But that implies, I think, that there are still dragons, if not of full primeval stature. I love the way he talks in that. He's basically saying,
yeah,
I don't know, I created the world, but it's got a mind of its own. Like, I love how he says that are far active at far later times, close to our own. Like, in his mind, he's not writing some story and it's separate from our reality, like times closer to our own. Like, he's tying this into the other mythology of like the Knights of the Round Table going out and slaying dragons. That's what, in my brain, like, that's the connection that he's trying to make, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, it's super neat. I love how he's like, yeah, I should be altered if I said anything. I don't think I did, but
he probably knows very well that he didn't.
Where's the community notes? Fact check me. But yeah, it is fascinating how much he wanted this world to be real and how realistic he made it, honestly, in a lot of ways, and the callbacks to what this looked like before our time. And even mentioning that there's still hobbits around today. They just, don't like us anymore.
Yep.
Man, great to be podcasting with you again. Just great talking about Tolkien and walking through dragons and just hearing how life has been for you guys. And man, it's good to just get back into it. It's been a while, and I'm excited for the future of whatever else we get to talk about. But any final thoughts on dragons or anything that we've discussed the last hour and a half here?
Honestly, not a whole lot. Just kind of echoing what you just said. I appreciate this time with you, and I know I appreciate your patience with me these last few months. Unfortunately, I've got 2 more rounds of this where it feels like life is never ending. And I literally take it one day at a time because that's the only way to mentally get through it. Which is something I have to relearn every semester, and it drives me nuts. And even Amanda goes, yep, you're in that cycle again where you hate life, you hate school, you don't want to go to work, you are just hating everything, but you just one day at a time. And then ultimately I get over that phase and start taking it one day at a time, and we get over it. But no, I just appreciate you. Sorry for boring you. I can see you yawning. I'm
so tired. It's not you at all.
I know. I've been yawning under my breath, pretending like I'm itching my nose.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, see? Next level thinking. But yeah, no, I just appreciate your patience. I know that I want this to be more of a commitment. I want this to be something that, we get on a schedule with, that we try to grow, that we try to get, a good following and make it, like, potentially even make money off of it at some point down the road. I mean, we've been doing it for 3 years for free just because we love it.
Yeah.
And I think both of us would like to grow this at some point. Unfortunately, I don't think this is the time. But
sure,
it's still an absolute pleasure and so much fun to get to do this. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah. Right back at you, man. It's even Ariel today. I told her we were going to podcast a few days ago. I told her when it was going to happen, but we were on a walk after I got back from work, and she's like, "Oh man, what do you want to do today?" I'm like, once the kids go to bed, like, you want to have a little date or something? I was like, you remember I'm podcasting, right? And I kind of expected oh yeah, that's right. But she's like, oh yeah, that'll be fun for you. Like, I'm so glad that you're doing that again.
Yeah.
And so, huge shout out to both of our wives who just give us up for a little bit of time when they don't see us that often. I know we've added a lot more time at my work. We've added another service on Sundays, and I'm trying to shift it up my entire ministry. That's required a lot more time for me. So I know Ariel's not seeing me as much as she used to, and obviously that's the same for Amanda. And so shout out to the ladies making it possible for this kind of stuff. But honestly, yeah, it's a lot of fun just getting to hang out with you and talk some Tolkien. And as I mentioned, like, you'll slay this dragon, these clinicals, this degree work, like, you're slaying it. It's one of those maybe death by 1,000 paper clips for this dragon, but you'll finally get through that hide and defeat that dragon. And man, when you do, we're gonna have a celebration, and
I'm hoping.
Awesome.
I am hoping. I haven't looked at all the calendars, but I think I graduate a couple of weeks before the long expected party 4.
Yo.
And I will have to be sitting for my boards around that time. But if somehow, some way I can like pass my boards, there's no chance we're missing it again, and we'll drive down and it'll be awesome. But that's my hope. That's my hope. But thank you for those words of encouragement. Like when you were talking about the dragons, it's like, yep, I got to hold it together. Got to keep it together. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, man, it's been fun. If you have any thoughts on the dragons, any speculations of your own, or you want to just ask us questions, please feel free to reach out. But this is the part of the podcast where we as Gondor are breaking into the halls of Meteld and we're shouting, Gondor calls for aid. Will you, Rohan, answer? So if you enjoyed the podcast or the YouTube video, please like and subscribe by lighting a beacon. Oh my goodness gracious.
It's been a while. It has been a while.
It's only 9:45, guys. This is not that late, but please light a beacon of your own by sharing it with fellow friends and fans, by liking and subscribing and leaving us a review, even if it's a 3-star review saying, you guys are okay. We'll take it. Anything you guys want to say, we're happy to hear it. We'd love to hear your Tolkien story or just have any thoughts that you have on Tolkien or podcast, anything like that. You can email us at wecpodcast@gmail.com, wecpodcast@gmail.com. And we don't really know what to expect for next time. We've alluded to, like I mentioned, possibly jumping on with Dr. Damien and talking about what fatherhood in Middle Earth looks like. I think that will be a really interesting topic, as the three of us are all fathers in kind of different stages of life and how that works. Look at some representations in Tolkien's work of good fathering, bad fathering, stuff like that. So maybe that'll be what happens next time. We'll see. But until then, we thank you so much for joining us for some well-earned comforts, and we bid you a very fond farewell.